Welcome back to tacosandgeeks.com. Justin and Sean here. And today we are going to be doing more film reviews. In today's film, we're going to be reviewing Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. We actually saw this in the Screen X Theater. Thank you to Screen X for another invite. And as always, we give you a brief synopsis. So here we go. Daredevil archaeologist Indiana Jones races against time to retrieve a legendary dial that can change the course of history. Accompanied by his goddaughter, he soon finds himself squaring off against a former Nazi who works for NASA. Now, Sean, I'm gonna pass it on to you because you're more versed in Indiana Jones than me because I only literally just saw Raiders of the Lost Ark. So,
Well,
someone who's seen a couple of the films, what were your thoughts?
like not to date myself. The first time I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, I was little. Like I remember because
Mm,
my dad had to cover my eyes during the last scene when everybody's face melted.
mm.
Because he was like, I didn't want to give you nightmares as a kid to deal with that. But that was I remember watching Raiders of the Lost Ark and was like, yo, this is crazy. It's Indiana Jones, and my dad introduced me to that. So seeing this last one, um, it's kind of reminiscent of the first one and
Mm.
brought back a lot of nostalgic feelings. Especially being a kid, going out with your dad, watching an action movie. I didn't get the Bruce Wayne treatment after that. Me and my dad safely made it home. um, but I saw I saw the second one. I saw the one with Sean Connery.
I think he's
After
all
that,
he's in the whole trilogy.
yeah, after that, I think I only saw part of the crystal, what was
Oh,
it,
Crystal Skull.
the
Yeah,
crystal skull, because to my understanding, they were trying to build it to pass it to Shia LaBeouf, but
yeah.
it didn't turn out that way. So that one was kind of a flop. But the first two were great. Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom were probably like the two best that came out.
Mm.
And had they ended the Indiana Jones series with the last one with Sean Connery,
The
I
Last
think
Crusade.
yeah, the Last Crusade would have been probably the best thing they could have done. But they tried to bring back nostalgia. They did the one with Shia LaBeouf, and then said what do you call it
Can you do this one?
yeah, this didn't flop. But I will say with this one, the last one, what do you call it? The Dial of Destiny, like this brought it back to the original.
Mm.
And it was pretty good. I don't know if like from our audience reaction, if people really understood how Indiana Jones was. I give a shout out to Harrison Ford.
Mm.
He got himself in good shape for this movie.
Yeah,
And
even showed his arms was pretty ripped for an
yeah,
80-year
like
old.
yeah, he got himself in great shape for this movie, and he looked good for like an 80-year-old man, like running around here, uh, doing. I don't think he did the stunts, but like for him to do even some of the scenes, the acting, and everything else, he did an excellent job with it. And I think this was like, if this is the last movie, which I kind of hope it is, because I don't
Mm.
think he's you know him doing two or three more of these. This was a very good like movie. I will say, my initial reaction was they could have cut out at least 30-35 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
That would have made this movie epic. But the opening scenes, beautifully done.
yeah,
A lot of scenes in the middle were good. You kind of like you're like, oh, this is cool, blah blah blah. Some of the dialogue dragged a little bit, like in the middle,
mm.
and we're just kind of like, okay, get to the point.
Yeah,
Some of the even though I like the art chase scene, it was done well, but it was way too long
yeah,
and way too much into it. It got to the point where it was like, okay, this shit needs to end at a certain point. And like I think that was like 10 minutes of that could have been cut out
yeah. I
and
agree.
and made it, and it would have been a great scene. I think when they entered the cave from that point on, I think that was like straight great Indiana Jones, like what do you call it, a movie.
Yeah.
from that point on, because it reminded you of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It reminded you of the adventures he went on, and it reminded you of what you loved about Indiana Jones. And it's kind of like, I feel like that's what video games like
Tomb Raider
besides Tomb Raider,
and Uncharted.
Uncharted are based off of. I think those are. I think when you play games like that, if you're into games like that, you're definitely into Indiana Jones, because that's exactly what it was. And then I will say the last 45 minutes to an hour of the movie kind of makes you remember that and realize what you loved about Indiana Jones.
Mhm.
This was a pretty decent movie. It's not that I know you haven't watched most of them. You've only seen Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance, or anybody who's never gotten a chance to watch the series, start with Raiders, start with Temple of Doom, start with the last one, the Last Crusade, and the Crystal Skull. You can kind of leave off your list if you don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
It's not that it wasn't done well. The only thing I will say is, damn, Indy, I wish Indy didn't have so much beef with the Nazis, yo. Like every film, I feel like, yo, it's just like the Nazis are just in it to get him no matter what. Like he's done so much, they just fight to get on him. I think it's a cool storyline that, that's what his thing is. Like I don't know. No, I don't think was the Last Crusade and Temple of Doom. I don't think had anything to do with the Nazis. I think only Raiders of the Lost Ark, and
I
I
think
have to look back.
Crystal Skull had like a division of Nazis. I can't
Yeah.
remember. I know it was Kate Blanchett's character. But to just piggyback off of you, I want to say this because I know there's going to be some people in the comic section like, oh my god, this movie was terrible. I'm not as invested in Indiana Jones as I am with a series, say, as Star Wars or Marvel and DC film. I'm not as invested in it. From what I saw, I had some enjoyment with it. I agree with Sean. The runtime was way too long. They could have. This thing was like 2 hours and 30 minutes. They could have cut a half an hour of this. Like there was a lot of dead scenes. I felt that could have just been cut. Some of the exposition could have been shortened a little bit. I get the whole we're on a quest to find this one step, so we gotta get to the next part, because that's the whole point of the adventure and things like that. I get that, but I feel like if you cut a little bit of it, we could have had a little bit pacing flow better.
Yeah.
Once again,
an epic movie with it.
Yeah, it could have been really good. Harrison Ford, just he's Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones. He's been doing this for the 5th time. There's no complaints about his acting. Phoebe, who played the goddaughter, I really didn't have a problem with her. I mean, there was one cringy scene where she had to do her little "I'm an independent woman" dialogue. I felt like at times they told instead of showing that. It was just like too hit on the head. They gotta learn better how to write these female characters. But for the most part, action wise, for 80-year-old man, and Sean, he did do some of his stunts because he actually got injured. Yeah, so for 80-year-old man, yeah, he doesn't run as well as he used to. They had to CGI some of the running. If you know when it's something CGI, I agree with Sean. The first 20 minutes of this film, I wish the entire film was something similar to that, with the de-aging and just the adventure of how it was. It's like you got a prelude to what you really wanted in the film. Then they get to the actual film, and then it's exposition, and then it's this, and then it just kind of drags from point. It wasn't like, till Sean said, to the last 30 minutes when they get to that cave.
They're about 45 minutes.
Like 45 minutes. When you get into this cave, it's just like, okay, we're back to this Indiana Jones movie. And you're like, all right, I'm invested because there's traps, there's things they got to figure out. And you're like, this is what I came to see. But overall, like I said, I'm not as invested in the series as some people who have like the fondest memories of it. For me, it's Star Wars, Marvel, DC films. So I'm not like going as hard as someone who's like a diehard and went here and I've seen the reviews. People are like disappointed as hell. I had fun with it. I thought it was enjoyable.
And before you continue, shout out to Disney for having like the technology to de-age him, because that almost looked flawless.
Yeah,
I don't
almost
know
did.
what everybody was, if anybody had a complaint about it. I haven't watched anybody's videos, but to be honest with you, that was almost a flaw. Like it
Yeah,
was flawless for like 20, 25 minutes
yeah,
watching Harrison Ford. And if you didn't know any better, you would swear they had just made footage of Harrison Ford. This was like lost footage of Harrison Ford from another movie. And it very well could be,
yeah.
but it was like, it was damn flawless. Like I sat down and said, yo, whatever Disney is doing, they need to continue. Like actors, I know Samuel L. Jackson was like, if God forbid something happened to him, do not CGI his face into
Yeah.
anything. He asked that. But I hope he took a look at this Indiana Jones thing and said, like, yo, look, you might want to reconsider
I
because it's a way for you to live on.
I mean, but even with Secret Wars, with Samuel L. Jackson's de aging,
Yeah, it
it's
looks
damn
good.
near, it's damn. Excuse me, Secret Invasion, and even the Captain Marvel. Then again, it's Sam Jackson. He really don't
Age.
age that well much. So
Yeah.
they had to touch up too much.
Yeah.
But I will have to say, just this is not a spoiler. For me, I felt that the ending kind of fell a little bit flat. Um, I felt that it was rushed. Like they probably rewrote that ending and just like it felt like something was missing. Like there was no payoff. It was like this point happened, and they're like, "Oh snap, we're way over the budget or way over runtime. Wrap it
Mhm.
up, wrap it up, wrap it up." And it was kind of like, I was like, yeah, the ending didn't land with me. But overall, like I said, for me, it wasn't a bad film. I did enjoy what I watched.
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't too disappointed in the ending.
Mm,
I mean, the very close up of him grabbing his hat again,
mm.
the iconic hat. Because I know the theater we were in, some people wore the hat,
Yeah,
and they came in. You had a few celebs in there,
yeah.
were there to support it and say, hey, like, look, this is we grew up on this, which is true. If you grew
Mm,
up watching Raiders of the Lost Ark or any of the Indiana Jones films, it was a because that's what I feel like anybody who like really like got on a review for it. I don't
mm,
know if it's like I'd like to know, well, how much of Indiana Jones have you invested in? How,
mm.
not to put it this way, like did you grow up on Indy? Was Indy something that you watched from the beginning?
Mhm.
Were you such a film buff at a young age you watched it? Because for that case, these are what Steve the first Indiana Jones films with Steven Spielberg.
Yeah,
So you got to think like he was at the top of his game. Steven Spielberg was at the top of his game at that time. So
yeah.
watching Indiana Jones and you're not getting into it, like, I'd like to ask these people, how do you feel about Blade Runner? How do you
Mhm.
feel about Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Because I think they're making another movie about they're making what Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind.
Oh,
Um,
why? Oh, good
huh?
lord. They are?
Yeah, I think that's coming out. You got to think like these were classic films at the time. So for
Mm,
anybody um around my age, they would probably say like, "Hey, Indy was pretty decent. It was pretty good." I mean, I don't expect much. I'm not
mm,
like everybody else. I'm spoiled by how action films are today. I mean,
mm.
example of that is the Expendables.
Yeah,
You've got a bunch of old action stars that are coming out doing things that probably they shouldn't be able to do at their age. Um, but they do a lot with the action and the running and the fighting and everything else. That's cool. But
mm,
for Indiana Jones, what we got in this film was pretty damn decent. We know it's
yeah,
dialogue, it's adventure, it's traps. It's not set in modern times because you can see throughout the movie. I think
yeah.
it's barely set in what the
Uh,
70s.
yeah, 69, 1969.
Okay, so 1969, you could tell with the scuba suits because they were still using the original scuba suits that were attached to a air hose line.
Mhm,
So um, think about it that way. Like it's just a nostalgic film for anybody who was in the indie. So if you ask me, my review at the end is I'll give it about 4 stars. It was a pretty decent. If hopefully, not saying I wanted to end, but hopefully if this is the last film, which I think it should be, of Indiana Jones, he went out on a good note. It didn't like I didn't walk out of there like, oh, this was such trash. There are some nostalgic movies you walk out, they remake, and you're like, this is trash. Like
yeah.
They should have just left the original alone. But like this one was a pretty good, respectful, honoring homage to Indiana Jones. This is the last one. This is a great last crusade.
And I'm actually gonna give it 3.5 stars. Like I said, the pacing a little bit too long.
Yeah.
The ending for me didn't really land, but I still had some enjoyment with it. Um, and hopefully maybe they'll. I feel like there's a lot of deleted scenes in there, or maybe we'll get a director's cut that really shows what they were gonna do. Because I know there was a whole bunch of rewrites and editing and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. But that's our review for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. If you did like the film or didn't like the film, comment below, let us know, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Later days.